Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. So glad you're here today. We're going to be creating a little Z-fold card, and we're also going to be using lots of products from Fawn. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to grab this largest die. This is from Fawn, and this is the large Slimline with sliders die set. So in order to create a grassy border for our Z-fold card, we're going to die cut the 100-pound Cilantro cardstock. You can see it's a little bit long for my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, so I'll slide that down and run that bottom section through again. And now I've got some white 65-pound cardstock. We're going to run it through with that same die, and this will be the card base. I just didn't want the card to get too thick with all of these layers. So again, that white base will be 65 pounds and the grass will be 100 pounds. So I'm going to score both panels at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. Let's do that again at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. So these finished cards, this finished card will measure 3.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So it's going to be a little bit smaller than your standard A2 size card, but it's kind of nice to change up the size a little bit. Now I've got some Lobster ink. This is a dye ink from Fawn, and I'm going along what will be the bottom portion of our sky. And I don't need to go all the way to the bottom of this panel because our grassy border will be covering that area up. So I'm going to next add the fake tan. And I have been listing these colors in the upper left-hand corner as we're going along. And the last color will be Sunflower. So once I have that top portion done, I'll just go back over and blend everything out. So you can add more layers of color. Just going to use that lighter color and do a little bit more blending. And then what I want to do is grab my Distress Sprayer. I'll add a little bit of water to my Wendy Vecchi Make Art station. This is just a magnetic station that I'm using. And I'm going to spatter this entire panel. And since this is a water-based ink, when I put my paper towel down, I'll be able to pick up a little bit of that color, and that'll add a little bit of texture to that sky. You can see that up close. Now for the green paper, I'm going to just cut this in half just to get started. So it's already scored. I'm going to cut right down the center of this. So I'll cut it 1 3/4 of an inch. And then let's create our two grassy borders. And to do that, we're using the Grassy Hillside border dies. We're going to need a border for the card base. So there's going to be one sitting right on this card. And then we're going to have another one that will be in front, and that will be for our Z-fold card. So the first one, we want to line up these scores. So we've got one at 2 1/8 inch and one at 4 1/4, and we want to select that one. That will have that nice stitch border around the bottom and the left side and the right side, and that second border we're going to flip around. So it's going to be the opposite. So we're going to turn that second one around. So there you can see those scores line up, those two scores for the one on the card base. And then this one we're going to flip around. So the first score will be at 4 1/4, and then that second score will be off to the right of that. So let's go ahead and die cut these two borders. So basically for both of these, your stitched line will be at the bottom and on the two sides. So that will also help you determine which way to die cut this. So I'm just deciding which grassy border I want to select. There's 4 in that little die set. So let's tape this down with a little bit of Post-it tape just to hold that in place. And you can see it's a little bit short, so what we're going to do is just move this over. Let's go ahead and die cut this first, and then we'll slide that die over and die cut the rest of this border. So let's do the second one. Now this one will be for the front part of the grass, so I want it to be not as tall. So the one in the back will be a little bit taller than the one in the front. And again, I'm just checking those scores just to make sure I have everything the dies in the right place, and then I'm going to run this through, and then I'll slide it off to the right, just trying as best I can to line up that grass. You don't have to be too fussy. It will work out pretty well no matter where you place that. And then I'll run that through again. And that will complete that border. Again, this one is a little taller than the next one that we're going to die cut, because this one will be for the card base. So now this next one won't be quite as tall. Let's run that through. We'll slide it over again. We can tape that down and run that through again. So now we have both of these borders all set. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of inking. We'll add a little shadow down at the bottom of the grass, and we're using the Noble Fir, which is a really pretty green color. So again, I'm using a small blending brush, and we'll just go from the bottom up towards the top. We'll leave the tops of those blades of grass the lightest. And I'm going to do that same thing for both of these. Now let's fold the card in half. We're going to create a Z fold. So then we've got it folded in half, and then we're going to fold this back. So that's at the 2 1/8 inch, we'll fold it back. So see, we have this little Z, and then we're going to do the same thing with this first border. And this was the taller grass that we die cut. And we're going to do the same fold. We're going to fold it in half, and then we're going to fold this piece back. And remember, the score lines are already there, so this is really easy to do. And that will get attached to the inside of the card. Just going to use my Tombow tape runner. And I'm not going to go up to the top of the grass just in case I want to tuck anything in that grass. I'll leave that area open. So I want to line this up really well at the bottom of the card. And just making sure that it fits nicely in these little folds. So take your time lining that up. And then I like to just press that back into place and use my bone folder just to press that out. Let's grab that second border, and for this one we're going to fold towards us, and then we'll fold away from us. And we're folding from the right side in towards the left, and then we're going to fold this back. So this will be the opposite of that first one that we folded. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So we've got that same Z, it's just the opposite of that first one. And we can go ahead and add some adhesive just to this panel here from that 2 1/8 line over to the corner. So I'm going to tape that in place first, and then we'll do the other side. So let's get this again right down in that corner, lining it up right along the bottom and the corner. And then we only want to glue to that 2 1/8 inch point for this piece. So I'm marking it with a pencil on the back, and then I'm just going to add glue from that line towards the right. And I'm adding glue this time just so I can slide it around a little bit and make sure it's really nicely in place. That gives me a little bit of time to slide that around and make sure I have it positioned perfectly in that corner. So now you can see we have this Z fold card. And look how cute and dimensional this is. For stamps, I've got the Lawn Fawn Berry Special stamp set and the die coordinating dies. You can see how cute these are. We're going to go ahead and stamp these using the VersaFine Onyx black ink. I've got my Mini Misty stamp positioner, and I've placed some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock in there. And then I've got my Stampendable stamp press, and I'll go ahead and press that out. I do want to stamp some more of the strawberries and a few more of those bees and another one of those little strawberry baskets. So I've got beige and mid brown, and again those colors will be listed in the upper left hand corner as we're going along. And I'm going to use my blender pen to blend these out. And these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Pens. So once that's done, I did that other one off camera. Let's do the little post on the sign. And we'll also do the sign in these same exact colors. Just adding a little shadow to each side and pulling that in. And kind of leaving some little lines in there just to make it look a little bit more like a wood grain. And then light pink on the cheeks of all of these little mice and in the ears. And then back to the beige and mid-brown to do their little bodies. So I'll just do this one on camera. I colored all the little mice the same exact way, and I'll color the rest off camera. I'm adding both colors at the same time, the beige and the mid-brown, and then I'll just kind of pull that in towards the center of the face, leaving the middle of the face the lightest. And then we can quickly blend out the ears and those cheeks a little bit better. With blue-gray and dark agate, I'll color in the little overalls. And if you like this little Z-fold design, I created a card with some Lawn Fawn products. I used the little penguins, and I did a Z-fold Valentine penguin card, which was really adorable. And you might want to check that out. I'll link that for you down below, and I'll link it on my blog as well, so you can check that out if you like. Let's do the little bees. I'm adding a little bit of light pink to the cheeks, yellow and bright yellow, and then we'll add a little bit of that haze blue to the wings. I've got May green and green to do the tops of the strawberries, but you'll see here in a bit, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to those as well, just to brighten them up and add a little bit of a highlight. You can see me adding that there. So I'm just going to use the yellow directly onto the cardstock. And then I've got red and wine red for the strawberries. And just a little reminder that all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below for you, and also on my blog. And then here I'm just going to color the rest of those strawberries in off camera. Now I've got the coordinating dies. I'm going to tape those down with a little bit of Post-it tape, and then we'll run those through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. I'll go ahead and die cut all the rest of these off camera, and then we'll set those aside. I'm going to grab the little signpost, and this little set has the cutest little images, the cutest little sentiments that you can place right inside that little sign. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of those, and I did place it in my MISTI. I just put a little bit of double stick tape behind there just to hold it in place because it is so tiny, and we can quickly do some stamping on that. And that says Berry Patch. So you can see I've die cut two banners, and these are from the Flippin' Awesome die set. This creates this cute little flip card. And I just need those two banners for a couple of sentiments. So I die cut those from some 100-pound black cardstock. And we're going to, again, just temporarily position those in the MISTI. I did add a little bit more tape to this just to make sure it wouldn't move. So we can go ahead and line up our stamps nice and straight, but we can go ahead and stamp these both at the same time. So let's lay out the stamps. That says have a happy birthday, and this one says you are special. I'm going to be using my Versamark watermark ink pad, and we'll be embossing these, so I'm going to place down a little bit of that anti-static powder before we do our stamping. We can go ahead and ink these up. I'm just double checking to make sure that stamp was nice and straight. I'll ink that a couple of times, and then we'll go ahead and add some white embossing powder. I'm going to be using the Ranger Super Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. This nice detail powder will pick up all the little areas of that sentiment. it will give us a nice crisp stamping. So let's go ahead and sprinkle on that embossing powder. I'm just tapping away any excess, and then I went ahead and heat set those with my heat tool. Now I've got some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. We'll use this to glue some of these down. We're also going to be using some little dimensional foam squares to place a few of these items down. For this little signpost, I'm going to put glue at the bottom and then pop up the top part. And that's so that I can tuck it in behind that grass, but it will still have a little bit of dimension. Now I glued this little mouse down, and later I did want to move it, but it had glued completely down. So I'll show you what I ended up doing. You do want to keep opening and closing your card as you're adding these items just to see what the card looks like when it's closed. So let's glue these strawberries into these couple of little baskets, and then we'll add those to this front section of the card. One I will glue flat. You just want to make sure you don't put glue above that grass line so that when your card is closed it doesn't get stuck shut. So I'm just putting a little glue at the bottom of these baskets. And then for this one I'm adding those little foam squares. Let's also pop up one of the single strawberries. And to remove the backing on those, I'm using my Cricut weeding tool. What I like to do is just press that backing down flat and then use that little pokey end of the tool to pop off those backings. It makes it really easy to do. I'm adding another little mouse on the inside of the card and a little bunch of strawberries. Now I've got a third basket that I'll add a few strawberries to. And when I realized here that this little mouse wasn't going to show properly when I close my card. You see how its little face gets hidden behind that basket? It was already glued down, so I couldn't move the mouse in the background. So what I ended up doing was moving that little popped up basket on the front of the card. I just slid it down a little bit. So now when the card is closed, you'll see that little mouse popping out from behind those baskets. We'll add another one of the baskets here. And then let's add a few more strawberries to the inside of the card, just to finish that off. And then I'll pop up one more right underneath that signpost. I've got my little bees, I've got 3 of them. We'll pop up 2 of them, the 2 that will show when the card is closed. And then I've also got this sentiment that we stamped and embossed, and this one says, "You are special." So let's add that. I moved this around a few times. I couldn't quite decide where I wanted this to be, but in the end I decided to place it right here in the upper left-hand corner. We'll pop up this bee, and these little bees are so cute. And in that stamp set there is like a little pattern for the bees, like a little trail for the bees that you can also use. I didn't use it today, but it certainly would be cute on a card. Had I thought of it before I assembled the card, I might have added those, but since the card was already done, I didn't want to do any more stamping of that kind because I was afraid I might make a mistake. So let's add a few little dots or foam squares to this bee and pop this one up on the front of the card. So what I decided to do instead is go back to that stamp set, and we'll add that little sentiment that says buzz, B-Z-Z-Z, and we'll stamp that around these little bees. That'll just bring a little bit more interest up towards the top of the card. I've got a little acrylic block. I'm just going to place it right on that acrylic block and stamp this. And I thought this added a lot. This is really cute. So once that was done, I thought I would just add a little piece of a gingham plaid paper behind the card so that I could put my second sentiment there. And that is from the Lawn Fawn Petite paper pack, and that's called Fruit Salad. I grabbed this yellow and white plaid. I cut it down to size to fit right on the back panel. That'll also add a little more substance to the card. And I left a little white border all the way around the edges, and then we'll just add that sentiment. And here's where I can sign the card. So I just thought that finished off the back. I'll grab my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen and add a little bit of sparkle to the wings on my little bees. So let's take a closer look at the finished Z-fold card. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope you had fun, and I hope you got inspired to give this a try. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.